Cool. So for the special populations part of my practical, first I'm going to be talking about blood pressure. So blood pressure is the amount of force exerted on artery walls by the pumping blood. High blood pressure, this is also called hypertension, means that your blood is actually pumping with more force than normal through your arteries. Now, the key thing here is safety. Our contraindications include making sure that your heart rate is no higher than 180 over 110 millimeters of hemoglobin, and you shouldn't exercise if your heart rate increases above 260 over 120 millimeters of hemoglobin during aerobic exercise, as these can lead to unlocking further health complications such as heart attack, stroke, or aneurysm. Now, also, underlying medical conditions can be brought forward whilst exercising if you have high blood pressure. These things include diabetes, congestive heart failure. A potential monitoring by a physician is kind of recommended if your resting heart rate is over 100 beats per minute. Now, what we should also avoid whilst exercising, if we've been given all clear to go ahead and exercise with high blood pressure, what we should avoid is isometric exercise. This simply means exercise that overcomes a movable force or if you're held in a static position for a defined period of time. These should be avoided just due to a rising heart rate. Now, modifications in relation to the exercise that I did with Tom earlier, most of it is okay. What should be taken into account is the cardio part. Instead of the shuttle run and the step ups, I'd actually just recommend a treadmill, maybe a bike ride, and all keeping this at low intensity. Very, very low intensity. All we want to do is just get the heart rate moving just a little bit, but we don't want to strike or scare anything. So weightlifting here is okay. Just want to be making sure that we're lifting within our range of motion and within our range that we can actually lift. Don't want to be lifting anything too heavy too early. Now, when we come to lower back pain, this is our pain, muscle tension, or stiffness that is obviously in the lower back, and it's chronic if it has persisted for 12 weeks or more. Now, pain in the lower back simply means that we shouldn't be doing lower back exercises, as this part of the body is sore or injured and therefore needs rest and potentially physiotherapy. A contraindication to this would be if a physio had confirmed that your client couldn't exercise their lower back without experiencing pain. At the end of the day, your client knows their body the best, so if they're saying that they're experiencing lower back pain, shouldn't risk it. Now, in relation to what we were doing earlier, some modifications I might make would be push-ups completely on the knees, as there is less pressure on the body that way during the exercise, and there's less chance of antagonizing the lower back. The dumbbell row is okay, just as it's an upper back exercise, but perhaps I would put on less weight. Massively crucial that we get our form right, and any pain immediately should stop. Any other exercises are okay. Now, knee injury, similar definition to our lower back pain. It's just pain, muscle tension, or stiffness in the knee. Now, similar to lower back pain, if you know there's an injury going in, it will do you no good training that area, but we can still train the rest of the body. Again, if it's been marked by a physio that you do have a knee injury, then that is a very official contraindication as to what we can and can't exercise. But again, when it comes down to the client's body, only they know 100% if they're okay to exercise or if they're in pain, and this must be acknowledged and worked around in our planned workout regardless. Now, modification wise, when we come to cardio, instead of our step ups and our shuttle runs, I would instead do cycling, as this can but I think that what's key when we're training around injured areas is to make sure that there's as little resistance as possible, and that's why cycling is super awesome, as well as swimming. Swimming is also really great for these kind of injuries, and it's also a viable cardio substitute. As far as our bodyweight lunges go, we could instead do a rocking horse lunge, which is where there's less range of motion in the knees, but it still trains our quadriceps and our hamstrings. Now, the rest of the exercises here that we did today with Tom, we wouldn't really need to adjust anything. regarding knee injury, lower back pain, or high blood pressure. And so this is the end of this section.